Bu fiil Türkçe'de kabul etmek veya itiraf etmek anlamlarına gelir ve genellikle bir kişinin bir durumu, suçu veya gerçeği kabul etmesi veya yanlış yaptığını kabul etmesi durumunda kullanılır. Bu fiil, duygu ve düşünceleri kabul etme ya da dürüstçe söyleme durumlarını ifade etmek için yaygın olarak kullanılır. O, hatalarını sık sık itiraf etmez.
He doesn't admit his mistakes often. He doesn't admit his mistakes often.
Şu anda gerçeği itiraf etmiyor.
She isn't admitting the truth right now. She isn't admitting the truth right now.
Şu ana kadar suçlarını itiraf etmediler.
They haven't admitted their guilt so far. They haven't admitted their guilt so far.
Son zamanlarda hatalarını itiraf etmiyordu.
He hasn't been admitting his mistakes lately. He hasn't been admitting his mistakes lately.
Dün duygularını itiraf etmedi.
She didn't admit her feelings yesterday. She didn't admit her feelings yesterday.
Sorduğumda hatasını itiraf etmiyordu.
He wasn't admitting his fault when I asked. He wasn't admitting his fault when I asked.
Duruşmadan önce gerçeği itiraf etmemişlerdi.
They hadn't admitted the truth before the trial. They hadn't admitted the truth before the trial.
Geçen yıla kadar duygularını itiraf etmiyordu.
She hadn't been admitting her feelings until last year. She hadn't been admitting her feelings until last year.
Yarın hatasını itiraf etmeyecek.
He won't admit his mistake tomorrow. He won't admit his mistake tomorrow.
Gelecek hafta duruşma sırasında suçunu itiraf ediyor olmayacak.
She won't be admitting her guilt during the trial next week. She won't be admitting her guilt during the trial next week.
Yıl sonuna kadar hatalarını itiraf etmemiş olacaklar.
They won't have admitted their fault by the end of the year. They won't have admitted their fault by the end of the year.
Gelecek ay gelene kadar uzun süredir hatalarını itiraf ediyor olmayacak.
He won't have been admitting his mistakes for long by next month. He won't have been admitting his mistakes for long by next month. Once upon a time, there was a man named Jack who didn't admit his mistakes often. Even when he was wrong, he didn't admit his mistakes often, which made it hard for people to trust him. Jack had a friend named Sarah. She wasn't admitting the truth right now, especially when things got serious. In fact, she wasn't admitting the truth right now because she was scared of losing her friends if they found out. Then there was Emily and Mark. They were known to be very honest, but they hadn't admitted their guilt so far after a recent argument. Yes, they hadn't admitted their guilt so far, which made the situation even worse. One day, Jack realized he hadn't been admitting his mistakes lately. He looked back and thought, I haven't been admitting my mistakes lately, and it's affecting my friendships. The next day, Sarah told Jack about her secret. She didn't admit her feelings yesterday because she felt nervous, and she worried what her friends might think. She didn't admit her feelings yesterday, but she wanted to try now. When they talked, Jack listened carefully. He wasn't admitting his fault when Sarah asked him why he acted distant before, but she could tell he was trying. He wasn't admitting his fault when she asked, but he was starting to change. Later, they met with Emily and Mark. They hadn't admitted the truth before the trial with their other friends, but now it was time. They hadn't admitted the truth before the trial, and it was finally the moment to be honest. A year later, Jack looked back and thought about how he hadn't been admitting his feelings until last year. He hadn't been admitting his feelings until last year, but now he was honest with himself and others. Tomorrow, he knows he won't admit his mistake again, but he will be more aware of how his actions affect others. He won't admit his mistake tomorrow, but he'll remember to be mindful. When it's Sarah's turn to speak next week, she won't be admitting her guilt during the trial because she will already have learned to be truthful. She won't be admitting her guilt during the trial next week because honesty has become part of her life. Emily and Mark have grown too. They won't have admitted their fault by the end of the year, but they've learned how to deal with their mistakes. They won't have admitted their fault by the end of the year, but they'll work together to make things right. Finally, Jack realizes he won't have been admitting his mistakes for long by next month. He won't have been admitting his mistakes for long by next month, but he's ready to change and to be the honest friend everyone needs. In the end, they all learned how important it is to be honest, even when it's difficult. Honesty brought them closer, and their friendships grew stronger.
Hikayemizin Türkçesini açıklama bölümünde bulabilirsiniz. Çalışmalarımızın devamı için abone olmayı ve beğeni bırakmayı unutmayınız.